Drivers, start your engine!
It's going to be a drag race. Wow! What a finish!
Joey Logano takes the championship for the third time.
And just like that, the 2025 NASCAR season is underway. I'm your host, Steve Letarte, joined by my booth mate over at NBC, Jeff Burton, the mayor. Welcome to NASCAR Inside the Race. Same name, new look podcast on YouTube. Whether you're watching us or listening to us, we appreciate that. Jeff, appreciate you joining. We got a lot to break down on this, looking back on what is the 67th running of the Great American Race.
Yeah, there's tons of breakdown. This is a fun show, Steve, being able to get into the details and understand how races were won and lost. And I don't know where to start tonight because you could go so many directions. I feel like probably half the drivers in the field got out of the car and felt like they could win the race, but only one ended up making it happen.
Well, I think the best place to start isn't even about a driver, to be honest. It's the winner, William Byron, but the size of the event. I mean, Daytona, you and I were both down there during the week. We didn't stay for the race, but it felt big. The town was electric. The seats were sold out. The hotels were full. The president was on hand. I hate the weather came in because it felt like the Daytona 500 should feel when we saw the green flag.
Yeah, look, the Daytona 500 is great, and a lot of enthusiasm. I think so much happened last year. So much good racing happened on the racetrack. I think that's bled into this year. Great viewership for the duels. A lot of good action in the truck race, the Xfinity race, and then, of course, the Cup race. And, Daytona always, it's just crazy. You have no idea what's going to happen when you go to Daytona. It's a great way to start the year. And the energy was real, Steve. I mean, like you said, we were both there, spent a lot of time at the racetrack. And the fans are fired up. The teams are fired up. All the drivers are fired up. It's that time of year. And again, after last year, I think everybody just has so much positive momentum and positive feeling.
So I guess the question is, was it the race you expected? I kind of was the race I expected. Couple debris yellows robbed us of some of the fuel savings. I wanted to see how that played out in green flag pit stops. No real big accidents early. Once you have that many cars left inside the last 50 laps, you and I were on a text thread. We knew the wrecks were coming, and they did. So I guess not a grade, but an expectation level. Was that kind of quintessential Daytona? It was for me.
Yeah, I think so. I think what we never know is how's the end going to happen, right? And you had an opportunity to have green flag pit stops, which would have separated the field. Some people would have had bad pit stops. Chevys would have pitted with Chevys. Ford would have pitted with Ford. Somebody, that could have spread the field. But then you got the debris caution, and now it's completely changed. And once that happened, you mentioned it. We all know at that point, everybody can go on gas. Everybody's going to be going wide open. And then drivers start doing things that they don't really want to be doing. But they have no choice. If they're going to get themselves in position to win the race, they have to get aggressive. It's out of the spotter. It's out of the crew chief's hands. It's in the driver's hands. And strategies have been played. Here we go. Let's go get our track position. But what's going to happen. We've seen it too many times.
Well, we are going to break down exactly how it happened on the green-white checker. But before that, I want to talk about, this isn't any other race. The reason we're going to not talk about how it happened and who it happened to first, a little out of order than how we're normally going to do it, is because this race changes lives. I was fortunate enough to win it as a crew chief in 2014. And every day, every year, every season, I get further from that win. It actually means more to me, if that makes sense. The other wins were kind of like this moment in time where you're like, man, all the hard work paid off. But winning this race really kind of defines your career, right? When how many championships, how many race wins, how many 500s it gets peeled out. Well, William Byron, I got a stat sheet for you. I love my numbers. Here you go. 27 years old. He's the youngest now to have won multiple Daytona 500s, breaking Jeff Gordon, also driver of the 24, breaking Jeff Gordon's record. They're both 27. He's a little bit younger than Gordon did it. He's the fifth driver to go back-to-back. No one has done that since Hamlin back in 19 and 20. He's the third guy to do it multiple times for Hendrick Motorsports, that is, winning the Daytona 500. I mean, look, 14 wins, 253 starts. I mean, as a 27-year-old, I'm not going to call him a kid, but as a young driver who has literally at least a decade or more ahead of him in his career, he's building quite a resume.
Oh, look, he is so talented. From the time he came NASCAR racing, I was watching him race late models and a little bit, and I know you could see the talent. He got in the truck. You could see the talent immediately in Xfinity and then also in Cup. And he's smart. You know, that's the thing about William is that he's a very aggressive race car driver. He gets up on the wheel. He's not afraid to do that. But he really drives more with his brain than he does his feet and his hands. And I think that's, you know, he reminds me a lot of a Darrell Waltrip type race car driver that maybe there's some guys that may be a little bit faster, but when you connect all the dots like the way that William Byron can, he's going to be dangerous. I think he's a real threat to win a championship. I know you mentioned a little bit about Hendrick Motorsports. Their dynasty continues to build too. That's the 10th Daytona 500 win for Hendrick Motorsports. You know, Rick Hendrick, you know, they've set the standard, right? I mean, Roger Penske has won the last 3 championships, and he's certainly, you know, with championships, that's how we gauge ourselves. But you know, over a long period of time, Hendrick Motorsports has been what you gauge yourself off of, and it's because of wins like this. They find a way to win these races. In no way is we going to get out of that car and say, man, I made this great move. I had the fastest car. This wasn't that kind of race. This was the kind of race that they managed. They found a way. They were at the right spot at the right time for sure. But they consistently find a way to do that. And so you can't just say it's luck. Yes, luck happens once or twice. But Hendrick Motorsports has been doing it for a long time. And they find themselves in position when these types of situations happen. So without a doubt, they were fortunate. But you cannot discount the opportunities that William had to get in wrecks, that type of thing, and he didn't. And when it all came down, there he was with the win.
Well, that's enough of the flowers. Let's get to the onions. And what I mean by that is the accolades are well-deserved, but this show isn't really just about talking about who did it, but more importantly, how they did it, Jeff. So let's take a look exactly at how this race played out, and let's focus on that green-white checker. The last couple laps really changed the whole perspective.
William, you were 9th with 1 lap to go. How did you come through the pack and avoid the chaos to make it 2 in a row at Daytona?
Yeah, obviously some good fortune, but just trusted my instinct on the last lap there. I felt like they were getting squirrely on the bottom, and just tried to. I was honestly going to go 3rd lane regardless because I was probably 6th coming down the back. So just obviously fortunate that it worked out in our favor, but just really proud of this team. Worked super hard all week and had an amazing car. Just had a really hard time with the fuel savings and kind of staying towards the front. So crazy. Yeah, I mean, I can't honestly believe that, but we're here, so proud of it.
Well, that's the race winner. Jeff, I have to say, Jamie Little's question was pretty good because how did you pull it off was a real question, right? 9th or 10th to 1st on the green-white checker. So let's just take a look exactly how he did pull it off. Let's relive that overtime. Let's set the stage, right? So we have Denny Hamlin controlling the race, Cindric on the outside, Hamlin a multi-time winner, Cindric a 500 winner himself. Behind him, we have the car Denny Hamlin owns pushing him. We got the 41 of Custer pushing another Ford, a couple other rows of cars. All the way back in row 5 on the outside is that 24 of William Byron. So let's take it from the green flag. For me, everything looks pretty normal from the green.
Yeah, it was pretty normal. You can see the bottom lane, not a great push from the 3rd row. You know, so some forward momentum gets built on the outside row. Watch this block right here. Denny Hamlin tries to slow Cindric down, but just too much momentum. So Cindric gets on the outside, Custer on the outside of him, and now Denny's teammate, he actually drives for him. His first race driving for him. He now is to the back bumper of him.
Yeah, he was thinking, I'm going to push the boss to a 500 win. This is going to be great for my career. And he's doing all he can with Corey LaJoie pushing him. The runs really seem to come fast in this Daytona with this rules package, whatever it may be. And I think it was a run here and a little bit of a side draft that ends up getting Riley Herbst turned around coming through the trial. He really gets spit out of line. Could have been a yellow. Great save by the driver, the 35, keeping it straight, and a great call by NASCAR staying on the green.
Yeah, he never spun, right? He never, I mean, he got sideways, but never spun. So that was a good call, but it shook the field up. It really impacted what happened. And now look, those front 2 cars, they got out. They got out in front of everybody. I was surprised Denny was able to make this move. Now they're side by side, and now big time momentum coming from behind.
Yeah, big run by the 41, 19, make contact. Cars are spinning, cars are hitting. NASCAR keeps the race under green. So we're coming back to the green, or to the checkered actually right here. Byron easily holds off Reddick. I guess your thoughts on it staying green?
Well, I think, look, my biggest thing for me is, did NASCAR feel like they could roll the safety vehicles because they were the wreck was essentially in turn 3, right? The cars would take the checkered flag, would slow down. Could NASCAR go ahead and roll the safety vehicles to get to those cars? It's different in turn 3 versus turn 2, right? Because the cars have a long time to get slowed down. So if NASCAR felt they could roll the safety vehicles, get them to them, I'm good with them. I just wish it was more consistent.
Fair.
I just wish we kind of knew when something happened whether we were going to come back to the green or not, or the checkered or not. I just wish we could have some more consistency.
I agree. I think, listen, I love when a race finishes on the green for the fans that are there. I always question the safety of the drivers. That should be paramount, and I'm sure NASCAR considered that. It'll be reviewed, and hopefully this will be the consistent trend we're able to see. And when we have to see a yellow, they'll be able to stand in front of us and say it was because so-and-so did this or because of this situation, which then triggered a yellow. But that's our opinion. We're fortunate this year to have some boots on the ground at the racetrack. Our Inside the Race reporter, Kim Coon, caught up with a couple drivers involved in that last lap wreck.
Cole Custer, a part of that last lap wreck. You took the restart in third. Walk me through what happened.
I mean, the biggest thing is you're just pushing and shoving as much as you can. The 19 gave me a big shot off turn 2, and I had a huge run. So I thought I'd take it. You know, you're going for the Daytona 500. It's the biggest race of the year. It's a life-changing race. And just trying to be as aggressive as you can. Took it 3 wide. And the 19 decided to go with the 11, and I just tried to side draft as hard as I could. I need to rewatch it. But you're just going so hard. You're going as hard as you can. This is the biggest race of our lives here. I don't know if I got too much or not. I need to see a replay.
You took the restart in second position. You were leading on the backstretch with Denny making a move. What would you have done differently?
I didn't know what part of the lap I needed to be the leader. You know, obviously cars were wrecking behind me and trying to figure things out. And everything got kind of separated there in the tri-oval, and I feel like I'm on a bit of an island there with the 11 car. And he made his move, and I still got hooked up with the 01 and felt like we were still gonna have a shot. I think the 11 got turned. I'm not sure. They all wrecked out on the outside of me. At that point, you're just trying to keep it straight. They kept it green all the way back around, and I leave here with a race car that still rolls, but a driver that's exceptionally disappointed to not be able to win the Daytona 500 second time as the leader on the last lap with a mile to go.
I feel a little bad for Cindric, or maybe I shouldn't. He won the duel with the yellow. He lost the 500 with no yellow. And how can you not cheer for Cole Custer? The man just got in a wreck, had a big smile. He had a shot to win the Daytona 500. His enthusiasm, I think, just reminds us all how big this race really is.
Well, and look, and don't forget, Cole Custer was a Cup driver, won a race, got demoted, ran 2 years of Xfinity, and now he's back. He saw a win. And you know what he saw in that is life. I mean, that's not just a normal win for a guy that has been through what he's been through. So you have to, when you look at these things, it's easy to look at them, from a analytical standpoint, but when you add emotion and a life-changing race is what he called it, all that matters. And think about what he's been through. You can kind of understand why he was willing to be as aggressive as he was.
Well, you said it. Aggression was the key right here. The 2 of Cindric leading, the 11 of Hamlin in second, kind of pushed out over 2 wide of Corey LaJoie and Cole Custer. The run's coming. The 11 has the momentum in this replay, right? So as we spin it forward, we're going to see the 11 jump to the outside of the 2. Really clean, really well done. And I think at this point, in my mind, he's hoping for some help. The 41 instead going to go to the outside of the 11, right? He's going to make a nice clean turn. If we pause it here, this is the changing moment for me. The 19 of Briscoe. I don't know if Briscoe said the 11's a Toyota, the 11's a teammate, or if the 11 was just the best path for Briscoe forward. But I love the move to not help the car with forward momentum, try to pick up the 11, because I think the whole energy can change by the way they get on the front stretch. Unfortunately, as it spins forward some more, the left rear of the 41 catches the right front of the 19. Jeff, they're glued together now. There's no chance those two are getting separated.
Yeah, once you make contact, with the left rear quarter panel, the car is going to go down the racetrack and it's going to shove everybody together. And I'm with you. If I don't blame anybody for taking a run. I don't blame anybody for. I mean, look, If I'm Denny Hamlin, I'm frustrated. I'm sitting here with a chance to win the Daytona 500. He said it. You got to get off turn 4. Remember, one of those 500s he won it by not putting a block on. He did not get himself in trouble. He did not put a block on. It looked like he gave the race away, but he didn't. He lived to fight another corner, and that's how he won the race. And so he has experience doing that, and it worked. And then he gets in a situation where others are blocking, and it doesn't work out. So you can understand why he would be frustrated. Daytona 500, it's plate racing. I mean, how long have we been doing this, Steve? How long have we been plate racing? I mean, and how long have we been talking about this?
Right.
This is
well,
no
Custer
different.
said it, right? So maybe his side draft was a little too aggressive, but he has to do it. But I will say this. In plate racing, you have to be a little fortunate. Take a look at this 24 right here. He goes to the top. Look how close he is to the 11. I mean, he just squeaks through. And this wasn't the only one, right? The 24 of Byron just got through this wreck. This is this great look on this Preece accident. Look at this right here. Oh, inches. I mean, inches from Bell. So this is the second
Look
time.
at this. No. Does he touch him?
I think he's
it's
touching
so
both,
close.
the 20 and the 3, right? So
close.
there's another wreck that he worked. Now, look, I mean, it is lucky, but he's steering the car. He's shooting for a hole. Just fortunate for him, the hole stayed open long enough.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's on days like that, Steve, you have to remember I had a lucky break, right? I had some lucky breaks, did a good job driving, and then there's going to be a race where you don't get it. And you have to remember that's how it works, right? And what we tend to do is we only remember the ones. God, remember that time I was leading, Steve, and somebody, right? You forget the ones you won, that all the things went your way. So stuff has a way of equaling out.
Well, you said it. They can't all go your way. Well, Joey Logano may have had the best car in the field. We're going to take a look at just how it didn't go his way next. For every victor, someone came close and didn't quite get it done this year. I think it's going to be Joey Logano that we're talking about. Jeff, I mean, the guy won stage 1. Then they had this crazy debris in the airbox or a throttle body. Fox did a really nice job of breaking down exactly what happened. The crew made mechanical repairs. They got their lap back, and then they were kind of recovering when he got into an accident. Let's take a look and ride on board. Tell me what you see.
Well, he's trying to get himself in position to win. So he wants to be in this middle lane, wants to get to the second row, Ricky with the block, and then they just get together. And now they can't get separated, and cars behind them trying to get slowed down, and then the big wreck happens. And but it all started just because he knew he felt like he had to get to the second row or get track position if he's going to win this race.
Well, he needed track position because laps were winding down, right? That was at lap 186. Let's take a listen to what Joey Logano said out of the care center.
Like I had to get to the second car in line to have a chance to win the thing, and had an opportunity to get down in front of the 4 there, and then the 47 kind of had a late block there, and then at this point, like, he's kind of indecisive, and I was trying to back out of it. At this point, I couldn't. I was getting shoved into it at that point because the checkup already happened. So, yeah, just racing there at the end. It seems like it's just, I don't know, felt like I can get my nose in there, was going to, and then he just wanted to block it, and then I couldn't get out. Once you already checked up, it brings the whole back of the pack up to you.
Unfortunately, innocent bystander coming off of turn 2 over there. How disappointing is this one?
Looks like the fastest car got in a hurry to get to the wreck. Logano was by far the fastest car today. Saw a lot of laps led, and he could about do anything. The Penske cars were very strong. And we still got 20 laps to go, and he's trying to go through the middle and make a hole that isn't there, and just created chaos. So hate it for all of our guys on the Zone Chevrolet. We had a fast car, and we were in position and just kind of biding our time and seeing what was going to happen next. And yeah, you got to know how wide your race car is to be able to find a hole that it'll fit in, and he obviously doesn't know that.
Oh, so much to unpack. Kyle Busch is a low-hanging fruit, so we're going to get to that in a second. Let's start with Joey Logano. A couple things I wrote down here when I heard that interview. Felt like he had to get to the second car in line. He knew it was the 4 car, who's a Ford, let me say that again, who is the middle behind him. He was being pushed by a Toyota in the 42, so it wasn't like a random car. He knew the car number that was back there. It was definitely an aggressive block. He didn't blame Ricky Stenhouse, but the block was aggressive. And then he talks about getting out of the gas, but having no choice. He got pushed up in there. Put all that in a big ball, Jeff. Did anything jump out to you, surprise you, or you think was inaccurate of that interview?
Kyle Busch did nothing wrong and got wrecked, so he was mad.
As he should be. As a guy who has yet to win this race, right? He's won everything else. Well, let's start with Kyle Busch. He said the 22 is the fastest. I think I agree. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly was. He and Cindric to me were the class of the field all day long. I think the other factor in this is when Joey said I had a chance to get in front of the 4. Not only is it a forward, it's the middle, and I think he wanted to be in the middle lane rather than the outside lane. I think that if you look at the race throughout the day, the middle lane was better than the outside lane. The outside lane would work well earlier, but it seemed like once it got up to speed and everybody could run full speed, not trying to save fuel, the bottom 2 lanes are better than the outside lane. So I think that was in his mind as much as getting to be that second car. He didn't want to be 3 wide on the outside. If he was going to be 3 wide, he wanted to be in the middle.
Well, let's take a look at the wreck. I do want to say I'm very confident this wreck doesn't happen at lap 50. This is a wreck because we are at 14 to go. So we have the 0-1 Corey LaJoie leading top lane, 47 of Stenhouse, 22 of Logano. Behind Logano, 3 wide, bottom Kyle Busch, middle is the 4, and then above him is the 42, right? So if we roll it forward, 22 gets a big run, goes left, 47 blocks. So if we stop it there, the question is, first of all, does the 47 have to make this block, or do we think in hindsight, now it's always easy after it happens, do we think that 3 wide behind him, the 42, the 11, we're going to pick him up? Obviously, Ricky thought he needed to make the block because he did it. And the man's won down here before, so I'm not going to question it, but I can question it now because it's already happened. That's the beauty of being a media versus being a driver. So the question is, would he have been okay if he kind of just stays top?
I don't think he wanted to be 3 wide on the outside either. I think he's looking in the mirror. He sees what's behind him. He knows it's 3 wide. He knows at some point he's probably either going to be leading a 3 wide lane or he's going to be 3 wide. I don't think Joey or Ricky, either one, wanted to be outside 3 wide. They wanted the middle, and Joey had forward momentum. So Ricky did not want Joey underneath him with forward momentum because that slows him down. So he wanted to prevent that forward momentum from coming. I think they both would rather be in the middle. He saw it coming. He made the block. We've seen this block. How many times have we seen this block, Steve? I mean, this is not an unusual block. It's aggressive, but it's not an unusual block.
So now the real surprise to me is that the block continued, right? It kind of pushed down the back straightaway. And I think this is a requirement, right? So if we back it up a little bit more and we kind of pause it right here, I think the other block that might have been questionable, Ricky Stenhouse right here, he knows if the 22 gets to his left side door, you have Blaney bottom, Logano lane 2, 47 lane 3, 42 car in lane 4, bye-bye 47. I mean, this thing is sinking to the back of this field, right? I mean, there's no way if they get 4 wide here, the 47 just doesn't fall like an anchor.
Oh, they would have split him big time. But I also think it's important to remember that they're going 185 miles an hour, and this stuff's happening in milliseconds. And once you start making contact, they're not in control. And even when the cars are next to each other, the air buffeting and it pulls you to the car, it pushes you away from another car. Cars are in your rear bumper. I mean, all this stuff's happening in just milliseconds. And it's easy when we break it down here in slow motion, but when you're sitting in that race car, once the contact is initially made, it's game on then. And that's what Joey was describing. I'm trying to get out of the gas, but I can't get out because they just get hooked together. Every time they hit, the front of Ricky's car comes to the left because he's hitting him in the left, or hitting in the left rear quarter panel. The front of his car comes to the left, and he just keeps going down and down and down. And if you're Ricky and you're in the situation you're in, this is happening so quickly. It's not like you can just turn right. You can't just turn right. And then Joey can't just he's out of the gas, but you can't get on the brakes because they're all running from behind you. So it's the initial contact, and then from there, it's just game on.
So as we see the fire out the pipes multiple times, everybody was peddling it. You've been a part of these. Take me to Wednesday, to Thursday, to Friday. Does Joey Logano, because I think the reason he's so good is because he evaluates and he's not afraid to do some self-reflection. He might not tell the world, but do you think on Thursday or Friday he thinks, maybe 14 to go was still too early at Daytona? Maybe I could have waited to 10 or could have, a lot of could haves and should haves. And like you said, it happened in a blink of an eye. But do you think if he had to do it again, if he was given this opportunity, would he just take a breath and fight for the next lap with as good a car as he had? And let me add, if he doesn't have the mechanical and he leads all day, is he less agitated, less because as a crew chief, let me take it back. For instance, we have a bunch of mechanicals. I kind of lose track of the race. I lose track of fuel strategy. I lose track of a lot of things because I'm so worked up on this mechanical issue. Joey Logano, they recovered, but now he, does the driver get that anxiety? Like, I got to go. Like, I'm behind. Versus if he just would have run up there and fell back to 6 versus driving up to 6. I wonder if the emotion feels different from behind the wheel.
So Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Austin Cindric, Dale Jr., Dale Earnhardt, I mentioned some guys that we see continually running in the front.
Right.
They're aggressive as hell. I mean, they are super aggressive. And when you're super aggressive, you're going to cross the line every now and then. I think if Joey's going to look at this, and he's certainly going to say, okay, what could I have done different? Ricky's going to look at this and say, what could I have done different? But if you're going to win, unless you're just in the right place at the right time, if you're going to win Daytona and Talladega, you're going to have to fill a hole with forward momentum that's uncomfortable, and you're going to have to block one that's coming that's uncomfortable. You're going to have to. And you're going to have to live with the consequences. And I think knowing Joey, and yeah, he'll be reflective and say, what could I have done different? But I think Joey thinks he made the move that he needed to make.
Yeah.
He got blocked. When he got blocked, he feels like he was trying to get out of it and he couldn't. So if that's what Joey thinks, and the only way to prevent it was to not make the move, and Joey will make that move every time.
Well, I will say this.
You feel like there's a hole there, and you have momentum, you got to take it.
Well, so if he makes the move and it works, then we're showing that replay as the move that won the race, right? I mean, I think that could have been the move that we didn't say. And the other thing I'll say, because you said his name, Dale Jr., he famously has told me on multiple times, very simply, every run you don't take is a run you may never get again. So you got to take it forward as it was. But that was just one of the many wrecks that we saw in the closing laps of the Daytona 500. One had another car in the air. Unfortunately, it was Ryan Preece again. He had some strong comments in his interview. Jeff and I are going to talk about that wreck up next. All right, I don't know what it is about cars in the air and Ryan Preece, but they seem to go together like salt and pepper, and he doesn't like it. He was very vocal after his wreck this week at Daytona about cars getting in the air and something had to be done. Jeff, another scary situation. I hated that was Ryan. I hate it for any driver, but this poor guy has taken some major rides over the last 2 or 3 years in this next-gen car, and he was frustrated. He was very honest. He said something he felt needed to be done about it. So kind of we'll relive these wrecks, but take me through what you saw, and let's talk about his overall comments about he feeling something needs to be done. I know work's being done. I don't think the world ever works hard enough on safety. I think it's impossible, but I understand his frustration. Yeah, you can't blame him for being frustrated. I mean, he's taken multiple rides, big wrecks, and for it to happen again, I don't blame him for being frustrated, and I don't blame any driver for saying, hey, things got to be better. So, you can see right here, big push, into the back of the 20. The 20 was didn't look like to me, just didn't have a good car that could be pushed very well. Comes back across the racetrack, and right there, he hits Preece. And when he hits Preece, it's not unusual, Steve, to see a car pop up in the air, making contact, but typically they go back down on the ground. This one didn't do that. This car, it popped up in the air got underneath the car, and then it just never sat back down. This would be a great view of it right here. Man, so it gets in the air with help of the 43, and then it flies over. So I'm going to talk out of both sides of this argument. They're 185, 190 miles an hour. It's complicated. It was a complicated wreck with a lot of different forces put on the car with the 43 that got the car in the air. So I don't think this is as simple as a car just blowing over. I think we've seen cars blow over. Daytona actually has paved the grass that caused Preece's wreck a year ago, or was part of the contributing factor. So the positive is there was a lot of things outside the norm. The car looks good after the flip. The roof didn't come down. The negative is it still flipped over. And I think there was a point in time where it could have came back to the ground with different situations, different devices, things that are well over my head. But luckily for the world is way smarter people than me on aerodynamics. Something else has to happen. I think it got in a very bad position. And when they get in that position, we need him to come back to the ground. I don't know the answer, but I do believe that I'm thankful work is being done, but I think we don't want to check the box and say that one's accomplished yet.
Yeah, I mean, this one's different than the ones we've seen. Ultimately, it ends up getting kind of sideways, and it ends up flipping, arrow flip. But initially, the contact gets it up in the air, and then it just continues to just kind of float. Then it floats a little bit, then it kind of turns in the air. Then it looks like kind of one of those where the air gets underneath the car. All the work's been done, when a car turns around to try to keep the car on the ground, not to keep it on the ground.
Not a wheelie? We haven't seen a wheelie the wheelie flip. Yeah.
So, yeah, this one is a different
I just
situation.
want to jump in, though, and say this. When people talk about cars flipping, it's not landing on the roof, and that's not the issue. And it's not even the uncomfortableness of flipping. Sorry for the drivers. The problem is when cars flip over, if you take your Matchbox car and you flip it over and you take another one and then run it into it, there's a lot of scary places of intrusion. These cars are meant to hit each other door to door, side to side, front to back, right? If I flip a car over, there's a windshield, there's a rear window, there's a window net that we have seen in multiple accidents. They're spectacularly strong, but they're not going to beat a 3,600-pound race car. They're not. I think that's what people, when people say, what's the big deal? The big deal is, there's a catch fence that we've seen what it can do to race cars, right? It's dangerous for the fans, the drivers. I think what we're talking about, right? It's not the one flip over. It's not that it gets silent. It's not that it looks violent. All of those things are real, but what people don't realize, it's kind of like why we went from aluminum to carbon seats. It wasn't the first hit. It was the second, where the carbon seat still has you kind of cocooned in, right? When a car gets upside down, it's not the flipping as much as it is when another car hits it already upside down, that, you're hanging in your belt. I'm sure there's 1,000 things I haven't even dreamt up that are much worse because you're upside down.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to keep the cars on the ground. There's no question about it. And look, NASCAR spent a tremendous amount of time, effort, and energy to do it. But again, like I said before, I don't blame Ryan Preece for being frustrated at all. Why wouldn't he be frustrated? I would think something's wrong with him if he wasn't frustrated.
Fact.
So, look, me, I have a little bit of an inside look about all the things that's going on, and I'm 100% convinced that they're working really hard.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree with you too. Something bigger has to change.
Well, great news for the fans. Unfortunate news for the Aero Development Group, who's going to have to stress on this. But the series now heads to Atlanta, which is basically like the new bull ring of super speedways. It's drafting, but it's kind of not. But it's a mile and a half. We've been down there. We've called races. My brain still doesn't know what I see out the window. It is the craziest. I've said it. I'll say it again. I think it's the best ticket in NASCAR currently. I really do. I mean, it's shocking what these drivers are going to do coming right off from the Daytona 500. Do you have any sort of predictions other than it's going to be crazy appearing?
I just don't know why it's not going to be as crazy as every other time we've been there. I mean, what a wild start to this year.
Oh,
two drafting style racetracks and then a road course. I mean, what a wild start to the year. So, it's no telling. It wouldn't surprise me one bit to see a guy that happens to be running 10th with 2 to go to win the race.
Yeah, no, why not? Listen, for the fans tuning in, we appreciate you, whether you're listening on podcast or watching us on YouTube. This is NASCAR Inside the Race. We're going to be back after the race, hopefully Sunday nights. If Mother Nature continues to delay us, you never know how long we will be. But we're going to be here all year long. We're going to break down the race. We're going to break it down hopefully in a little bit more detail since we have a little bit longer format. We're going to break down all the pit strategies, all the pit stops, all the wrecks, all the feuds, and all the results. So we appreciate you tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe. Tune in each and every week.